Good morning and welcome to the Raben Report. I'm your host, Elliot Raben, so get ready to get triggered. Good morning and welcome to the Raben Report. I'm your host, Elliot Raben, as you might have heard in our intro. And with me, as usual, I have my expert panel, Marshall, Adam, and Daniel. How are you guys?
Very good.
Feeling healthy.
In reference to what we're going to talk about, I see.
No, not at all. I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Allegations? Those are all allegations.
Fake news.
I was doing the theme, yeah. As per Spirit Live rules and regulations, all opinions expressed on the show are not those of Ryerson or Ryerson faculty and are only those of the individual commentators. Viewer discretion is advised. Let's start with our weekly update. Adam.
Hey.
Hello.
Hi.
How's it going? Oh,
great. It's going great.
Oh, the camera's not on you. Okay. I'll get it on you in a second. But you have some interesting news to tell us, don't you?
I do. So yesterday, the Transit Commission of the Toronto City Council approved the $70 per month discount transit pass for students. This is great. This is about 10 years in the making. In 2008, U of T Scarborough ran a referendum. It failed. And then I think it was 2014. They tried again. The city council voted against it, and it was sort of stillborn in the making. And then now the work of Daniel Liss, our VP Education, and the rest of the U Commute team, which is different student union representatives from OCAD, George Brown, and U of T, succeeded in getting the council to approve the groundwork for the transit pass, and now it's just up to the respective schools to run their referendums to get students on board. I had the honor of being one of the deputies to give sort of a little motivation for the UPass yesterday at the Transit Commission meeting, and it's been a long time coming. And you know, as much as I am very grateful to be part of student government, I'm very skeptical even of my own capabilities and of the capabilities of the board that I serve with. And most students expect that sort of nothing gets done, but this is huge, and I'm really happy. And we tried to go for 65, but they wouldn't budge. So 70 is still a great deal for students. It's about $208.
No, it isn't. I can't stand that. That's too much. Are you kidding me? A $5, $10 difference? Are you kidding me?
It's about $208 in savings a semester and $412 a year.
It's actually really, really helpful because it is cheaper than, because I don't get a Metro Pass now because even though I commute 3 days a week, but even assuming I commute 5 days a week, it's cheaper than the tickets, which are already cheap comparatively. So congratulations on that. Thank you, Adam, for being one of the spearheads, I would say.
I'm a very small part in the big picture. It's Daniel Liss and his team. So.
Well, thank you to Daniel Liss and the team, and of course Adam. Still couldn't have done it without you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, it's very, very important. I'd like to see in the future. I want to obviously getting the TTC is such a big step, but I think it'd also be very cool to see like what Go Transit has to offer as well. Like obviously that's a separate issue that's going to be happening in the future with Metrolinx and stuff like that. But just because we know that so much of the Ryerson community depends on Go Transit, because people are coming from Brampton, like myself. They're coming from Whitby, they're coming from not Barrie, but I don't know.
Some people do.
I know people who used to come from Barrie.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying though. The Go Transit reaches as far as possible, and there are students from everywhere. So it just shows how important this issue is, and how important it was that Adam to help bring this up. So
the thing is with that is that Metrolinx and Go are sort of going through this sort of interchangeable stage.
They have
right
so
now.
much thing on their hands right now.
Yeah, so the UPass, they sort of were like, keep us in the loop, but we're going to stay out of this for now, which I understand, but it kind of sucks.
Right.
Yeah. So moving on to the next item in our weekly recap, there was an arrest in the UK on the individual, the YouTuber, who made his dog salute and put up a paw every time what did he do? He did the Nazi symbol.
I can fill the viewers in. I've actually been following this for a long time.
It's been like 2 years in the making almost?
Since a couple days after he released the original video, I've been following it.
Yeah.
He's an interesting individual. Goes by Count Dankula. His name is Mark Machin. Lives in Scotland. And so his girlfriend got a new pug. Like a dog.
I love pugs.
And he wanted to play a prank on his girlfriend because he said, "Oh, my girlfriend thinks this dog is so cute, won't shut up about how cute this dog is, so why don't I turn it into the least cute thing imaginable, a Nazi?" So he had the pug trained to do the Sieg Heil, the Roman salute, upon saying "Gas the Jews" or "Hail Hitler," and took videos of this pug watching videos of Hitler's speeches and Nazi rallies and posted it to YouTube just for his friends to see, but it eventually went viral.
Yeah.
And the next day, after it went viral, or 2 days later after he posted the video, I believe, he got a knock on his door from the police. Was arrested for a hate crime. And that was 2 years ago. The trial went through a series of delays, and the prosecutors wanted to up the charges, and yesterday, March 20th, was the day that he was declared guilty.
Mm-hmm. Now he's got to wait for his sentencing. So
yeah, sentencing is coming up in mid-April, near the end of April. And yeah, I mean, it's a very interesting case. I think it certainly was a joke done in bad taste, but I think the fact that he is facing a possibility of a year to 5 years, or it may have just been a year. I think it was, they tried to go for 5 years and they only got...
minimum 1 year, maximum 5, I think.
No, I think they brought it down from 5 years to maximum of 1 year.
Oh,
but,
wow.
And I don't
well, the laws are very new, right? So like, it's up
and
to debate.
I don't think he will face a year in prison, but I think the fact that that's a possibility is concerning.
Yeah, it's pretty scary.
Do you think so you think he shouldn't have been arrested for the joke?
No.
Okay.
I think that kind
I'm not like debating. I'm literally just asking.
Yeah, no.
Because I don't think I think it's honestly hilarious, to be honest. But
that's what his
the
goal
point.
was.
Yeah. But obviously there are people that are going to be offended, and then hate crime. Adam, you seem to have a different reaction.
To make a claim as if it's anti-Semitic is ridiculous.
And that's what the judge said. The judge said, "We recognize this was a joke, but this was clearly an act of anti-Semitic hate." And I think that that's quite the statement to make, that was an act of anti-Semitic hate.
Okay, look, on its own, a dog raising a paw, don't see the greatest issue with that. But from what it sounds like he sort of edited the video to add like Hitler speeches and stuff like that. And I feel like in a combination of that being a little too far for my taste, and you can roast me if you want, a little too far for my taste. I think in combination of the people having those same feelings and people feeling anti-Semitic tones in that, which I feel is completely warranted, I think now with this whole sort of paranoia, and valid paranoia, but still paranoia of neo-Nazism, it was almost like they wanted to make an example out of him. And Britain, on its own, is a very big hotspot for trying to show that it's not anti-Semitic. Jeremy Corbyn has tried to prove time and time again that he's not anti-Semitic. And England is sort of this bed for, are they anti-Semitic or not? And I feel like every time they get a chance, they're going to be like, no, look how hard we're hitting down on this dude who's doing this. And I'm imagining like guys in like the living room of one of their places drinking beers. It's like, yo, look at my dog doing this. That's so ridiculous. And they're all laughing. But for it to go viral on YouTube with Hitler speeches, a little too far for me. A year in jail? No, I don't know about that.
That's fair.
But I think that he deserves some kind of punishment, and that could be just me being a snowflake. But
now, what punishment would you prescribe?
I don't know. I knew that question was coming. I don't know. I feel like
community service.
I don't even know if that's fair. I don't know what I would give him, but I would give him something, and I'm not a lawmaker person type human.
So I'd like to address some irony that was in the court proceedings, was that the judge said, we recognize this individual's right to freedom of expression, but freedom of expression comes with responsibilities. That's a fairly close paraphrasing of what he said. And I think that that's such a silly thing to say. I mean, of course, yes, freedom of expression comes with responsibilities. That's nobody's question.
It's implied, yeah.
But to say, okay, so you know what, you have your freedom of expression, but we're still gonna jail you for expressing something. That's just, it's an oxymoron, and it's absolutely ridiculous. And I think that it's really, really concerning that not only that they are doing this, but that they can do it. I think that to give the government the power to do that kind of thing is concerning, and I think that we people in the UK rather should be concerned about this. This is something that should be raising a lot more red flags for people.
Yeah, like it shows like because the judge like labels it as like they had to define it as grossly offensive for this, right? Because it has the possibility of like offending somebody from the Jewish community, obviously. But like it shows here, like I have an article pulling up right now, like from like what the judge says is like the description of the video is as humorous. Sorry, the description of the video as humorous is no magic wand. I'm sorry, but if you go look at that video and you see how cute that dog is, and he's literally just like that while Hitler's like going like this and stuff, like it's like maybe I just have a dark sense of humor and I like that kind of stuff, but to claim that the person was anti-Semitic and wanted to like his words were so like detrimental to society that like it could potentially incite hate towards Jewish people, that's just wrong, in my opinion.
Absolutely. And,
like, even right here, like, it shows his girlfriend testified that Mr. Meechan had never made known to her of any anti-Semitic views whatsoever. Like,
And I can believe that.
Yeah.
But it's all about interpretation.
But I also think it's a gross misuse of the law.
Yeah, it just creates such a strong precedent.
What is the goal there? What does that benefit? In the sense of, you know, what is going to happen? What's the worst that can happen from this guy doing that? Is that dog going to go on to become the fascist leader of England?
He's now going to be the mascot for the neo-Nazis or something? Like,
it's, you know what, it's a dog who doesn't understand what he's doing.
And the Fur
Reich.
Oh, my God. Oh, God.
And
see you later.
You know what? It's just so silly to me. And you know, silly's not even an appropriate term. It's scary. It's that this can happen to me.
So we do have to move on, but to another arrest. The ex-French Prime Minister, Adam, what was the name?
I think it's Swarovski. Not Swarovski.
No. It's
Sikorsky?
Yeah, him.
Sarkozy.
Yeah. There we go.
Ding, ding, ding.
So he was arrested for taking about 50 million euros, which is about over $60 million worth of funds from Gaddafi of Libya to fund his campaign. We don't have much time to talk about that, but it was just interesting to know that even though he was in power until 2012, and only now this comes out. So I just found that interesting. But
well, the truth always comes out eventually. So it's weird that it's now of all times, and it's a little later. But still, I mean, not surprising. Gaddafi was a corrupt billionaire. Corrupt billionaires, a feather flock together. I mean, there have been so many European leaders going to African governments and corrupt African governments for funding. We've seen it in the Congo. We've seen it now in Libya. So I'm not surprised.
And I just have one. I know we have to move on, but just one quick thing is I think it's important that we don't make it about Gaddafi as much as we make it about the money, the transaction itself. I don't think that the big deal should be that it was Gaddafi. I don't think that people from other countries, especially foreign leaders, should be investing in foreign elections whatsoever. I think that's the bigger issue there.
And also, we separate thing I didn't include, but Putin won the elections in Russia.
Way. Whoa!
I'm so surprised.
I'm sure we're all surprised, and we're so very glad.
He's in power until 2024 now.
Do they even have term limits?
Yeah, this is his fourth term.
He extended it.
Oh my
God!
Well,
through a bit of trickery, he had his puppet come into office.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Dmitry Medvedev.
Then they changed the rules to
So
get rid of term limits, except for consecutive term limits. So what happened was
You can
reached
like
his
run
term
off,
limit.
run on.
He's
run
allowed
off,
to put in his guy, and then he's allowed to come back
literally,
in.
all they do is keep switching. But anyway, let's move on to our main topic today, which is Canadian healthcare. Today we talk about our healthcare system here in Canada. Following an 8-hour gap of time I underwent at the hospital with a friend of mine, waiting for her to be looked at after walking into the emergency room. 8 hours. I thought we really need to re-examine our healthcare system. 8 hours for a CT scan and to get the results. To me, it's just unfathomable, but we'll get into it more. But is our anthem of free healthcare for all really great? We'll find out this episode and how we compare to America's healthcare system. Before we start, remember we are live on Facebook, so you can comment on our live feed and have your thoughts read on air. So let's begin. Question, of course.
Yes.
Just so our viewers understand, what kind of healthcare system do we have?
I'm going to talk a lot in a bit, so I want somebody else to take this, and then I'm just going to...
I think I'll just say in very simplified terms. Canadian healthcare.
Yeah. What is the system?
So basically, we can relate it back to our last episode. So people pay a significant portion of their taxes. I don't know exactly how much of those taxes are going in.
It's a lot.
That's implied. But it's basically funneling into all the healthcare systems, so like in every single province and stuff like that, and all that pool of money is used to provide basic medical needs for everyone. So it basically shows that you're not technically paying for every single time you go to the hospital or go to the doctor and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But because of the program that we use, all that money gets channeled into like every little aspect of the healthcare system, and so it makes it so that now, like here specifically in Ontario, you just show off your health card and you provide proof of record specifically with that.
And so our healthcare system is a federal mandate through the Canada Health Act. The federal government prescribed our healthcare system.
R.I.P. Tommy Douglas.
But the provinces are in charge of it. They pay for it, except they don't really pay for it, or I mean, they really do, but the money comes from the federal government a lot of the time. Mm-hmm. In most cases, in most provinces, that's the case. And not all of the money, but a huge portion of it. So it doesn't exactly work out the way it's supposed to, but that I think we've essentially covered the...
Yeah. Right. So then the next question, why does Bernie Sanders love our healthcare so much? Because there were many times he talked about Canadian healthcare. He came to Toronto. He went to
Healthcare for all.
That's so good.
Just to cut in for a sec, my phone just hit 1%, so I'm going to need somebody else.
Yeah, I can do it.
Healthcare for
it's
all.
Fine, I got it.
Oh, you got it? Okay, cool. But yeah, so why does Bernie Sanders, I don't know why I did an English accent, but why does he love our healthcare so much? Why?
Okay, so...
I'm sorry.
Bernie Sanders.
Please do the entire answer in his accent.
So what I think of why Mr. Sanders loves our healthcare... No, I can't. Why he loves our healthcare system is basically because healthcare in the United States is literally the Hunger Games. And I'm going to sound like a huge
Literally
hypocrite.
or figuratively?
Figuratively, the Hunger Games. Okay, Marshall. Okay, I'm going to sound like a hypocrite in about 5 minutes, but it's almost like the Hunger Games in the sense that the richer you are, the better healthcare coverage you have. And with the Obamacare mandate, he gave coverage to about 30 million Americans that did not have extended health insurance through where they work and different things like that. Now, in the States, it's a little different because of their private system, most jobs do offer health care benefits to give to their employees because they need it to survive. But healthcare in the United States is so expensive. Everything is private. What we pay for our prescription drugs is much, much, much cheaper than in the United States. And it's not so much... healthcare in the United States is more advanced than in Canada because there's more money for research and there's more money for hospitals and different things like that because it's all private. But with that comes everything being much more expensive. And Bernie Sanders looks to Canada and sees a drug, for example, and I don't know the name of it, but there is a drug that helps treat AIDS. That's $7 a pill in Canada and almost around, I don't know, but it's almost like 100 times
that. Is it Daraprim? The one for toxoplasmosis, which is a symptom of HIV?
I have no idea.
I really don't think the specifics are that important, right?
Anyway,
it's more about the price that you're
he had all these graphs on his Instagram that were verified, that were showing the different price points between some drugs in Canada and the United States. And it's much more the pharmacare differences because everything in Canada is much cheaper because of the federal mandate that we have. And I think that's why he looks to Canada and he wants healthcare for all in the United States. And
I feel like it's very important, though, to discuss how, like, Canada's has the, like even though it is federally mandated, like, we do feel like we have, like, a right to healthcare, right?
Yeah.
And so, like, like, Americans, like,
it's not a right in America.
They don't feel like it is, like, it isn't, and they don't feel like it is. Like, that view is changing now, like, with some people, like, from the left, and it would be wrong to suggest that people from the right don't want healthcare for people. Like, it's just. It's
just a different way of getting.
They're not.
It's just
all
like,
evil.
No, it's just like transitioning from a private system all the way to a public system with a country so big, which is going to require so much reform. Like the ACA was already so complicated as it is, right?
But my question is, are there problems with our healthcare system? Because as much as I see your finger going up, but as much as we can all get healthcare and we feel like it's a right, are we really getting the best treatment possible? Like, do you think 8 hours sitting in the emergency, right? What kind of emergency lasts 8 hours? Okay, unless you're in labor. But 8 hours in an emergency to get a freaking CT scan. There are problems with it.
That's too long.
And you know what? There is a lot of problems. There are a lot of problems rather with that. I've had a similar experience a couple of years ago. I got a laceration on my hand that was pretty bad, and I ended up waiting about 6 hours in the emergency room. And you know, it was really unfortunate that that had to happen, and it did have an effect on me because I wasn't able to get the same treatment that I would have gotten had I gotten into the emergency room immediately, and into the operating room rather. And so what I would say is that I my opinion on healthcare has changed quite a bit over the last year or so. And when we talk about what the right wants for healthcare, I think a lot of what people see as the right is dominated by a lot of libertarian-esque and neocon and neoliberal-esque ideas. And I think that a lot of those folks would not want universal healthcare or to increase the universality of healthcare. I would disagree with that. I do support that. A lot of my kinds of conservatives, Tories generally do support that. But I don't think that Canada is necessarily the best place for the states to look to. I think that the states, overall, their healthcare system is not something that I would want. I think where and when it works much better than anywhere else in the world. But where it doesn't work and when it doesn't work, it works far, far worse than any developed country should.
And we do have, I know Daniel is just a bit busy looking some stuff up, but we do have some comments.
Oh, I was going to talk. Sure. Sorry.
It's okay. Yeah, no problem. But so we have Will Anderson, who said that Canadian healthcare is like a Soviet breadline. And my family actually knows what a Soviet breadline is. And then we have Jared Burke, who said quality, affordability, and availability.
That's what
I
was trying to figure about.
Yeah.
I was trying to Google that right now.
Yeah.
And then lastly, we have Karina. She said, how do you guys feel about OHIP paying to send people out of country for medical care, surgical procedures, etc.? So we're going to touch on that. We're going to come back to it. But I just want to mention this one case where a woman went to a Canadian hospital. She sat in the waiting room. She fell because she was having a heart attack, and then she died because nobody came to see her.
Yeah.
Like, this relates to our what the fuck series, but what the fuck?
Yeah.
Like, is that appropriate healthcare? Do you think that it's the same question? Back to it. I don't know. I have some strong views on this.
I'm gonna give an anecdote, and this is where I'm gonna sound like a hypocrite for liking Canada's healthcare system. So for those of you who don't know, as this is a radio show, and many of our viewers have never seen me walking, I walk with a limp. I was born that way. Such is life. Whatever. But to correct my limp, there are two kinds of surgeries I can do. The Canadian version is where they take a piece of tendon from an animal, probably a pig or a cow, and they cut my tendon and they stretch it and they insert it, and I have to go on all these different medications for my body to adjust to it, and all that kind of stuff. Now, in the United States, in the land of the free, the home of the brave, with all the research funding that goes into their private healthcare system, there is a surgery that is done by about 7 doctors in the United States, where what they do, they go into my Achilles tendon, they have a microscopic incision where they cut my tendon in a diagonal shape and they stretch it, and they put nerve blockers both in my hips and the back of my knees, so my body thinks that's how long my tendon actually is. And as muscle grows faster than bone until you're 18, I've had this surgery done about 4 times now.
In Canada or
in
US?
New Jersey? In New Jersey.
Oh, okay.
I did this surgery in New Jersey.
Just to clarify,
I've had this surgery. I've had this American surgery done 4 times, and it costs about $11,000 a surgery. Wow. And the Canadian government, through OHIP, and I'm getting to that question, I know we're going to touch it later, the Canadian government pays the taxes that my parents paid to the American government for the surgery.
Okay.
They cover the taxes, which is around $4,000. So the
Is
Canadian
that 4,000 on top of the 11,000?
Yeah.
Or okay, wow.
So the Canadian government has covered that funding for me and my family. With the Canadian government's system, I would not be able to walk as well as I do. I'm going to give the American system credit.
So then the surgeries have benefited you, even though
they've changed my life.
Okay.
I walk with a little bit of a limp, but if I had the Canadian version of the surgery, I would be walking completely wonky.
Okay.
And that's the privilege that I have. One, as someone that comes from a generally wealthy family that can afford the American surgery, and 2, the fact that the American system has provided the research for that. So I wouldn't be able to walk as well as I do with the Canadian healthcare system.
So basically, in a sense, the only good thing about the Canadian healthcare system is that you have the option to do the American one.
Yeah.
Like that's what I heard, to be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Which kind of speaks
That's
volumes.
crazy.
but everything else that the Canadian healthcare system has provided me is much better than the American healthcare system. You all heard that cough? I'm just recovering from bronchitis. I got my
bronchitis.
I got my antibiotics for $3 because of my extended health insurance plan. You can now get antibiotics for that cheap in the United States.
Did you get them from the U.S. though? Because in Canada, everybody under 24 now gets free prescription drugs.
I'm not eligible for that.
Why's
because
that?
I have extended health insurance.
Oh.
Yeah. Sorry, Marshall. You wanted to say something.
Oh, yeah. I mean, so I've actually had the very similar procedure to what you were just describing done twice. Both ankles, my peroneal tendon.
Peroneal.
I don't know how similar it was. I don't know the exact procedure. But, yeah, I had a tendon cut and stretched. And, I had it done in Canada. I had it done once as an infant, once when I was 18. And, the wait time for that was absolutely ridiculous for the one when I was 18, obviously. And the recovery for it did not go nearly as how the doctors planned. Now, is that something that is due to our healthcare system? I have no idea. But I am certainly inclined to say that there were problems with it that may or may not have had to do with our healthcare system. And I'm only bringing this up not because I think that it 100% would have been better if I had this done in the States or in a system like the States, but I can't help but wonder because, none of that really went as planned, and I do have quite a lot of problems with my ankles, my feet, my legs. I think that there are great healthcare systems out there that Bernie Sanders could certainly look to for what the U.S. might want to do, might want to change. I don't think Canada's is one of them. And I think Canada is very much, I know Canada is very much founded upon the principle of pragmatism. And I think that...
For our viewers who don't know what that is, what does that mean?
Pragmatism is, more specifically, realpolitik, which is a Machiavellian idea, originated with him, kind of brought into modernity through Otto von Bismarck and uniting the German Empire. And... with Benjamin Disraeli. I'm going to explain it just a moment. Benjamin Disraeli in the mid-1800s in the UK was their prime minister, and with Sir John A. Macdonald, he looked to all those people as inspirations for the founding principles of Canada. And the idea is more so providing for the people in general as opposed to, sticking to one principle. And I think that it's about practicality, and I keep saying I think, but this is not what I think. This is what I know. It's about practicality, and it's about what is going to benefit the most people and not going to disadvantage too many people. And I think that our healthcare system benefits a lot of people, but it disadvantages so many people. And the thing is that so many people don't need our kind of healthcare.
Yeah.
What we have is fantastic for those who can't afford insurance or the procedures out of pocket. But I would say that a huge portion of our country, and not a majority certainly, but a huge portion of our country, we've got 33 million people, are able to afford the insurance. And most people I know, and this is anecdotal, of course, you don't have to take this seriously, I don't have the stats here. Most people I know have some sort of health insurance that is outside of the government coverage.
Yeah, if they're not, they're covered either by school or by work or by whatever.
And in terms of practicality, Daniel,
I was gonna talk about.
You want to mention our comment?
Yeah, our comment based from Jared again. He's talking about how the city of Sault Ste. Marie has no cardiologist whatsoever, and if they actually do need to go to see one, they basically have to travel 8 hours to Toronto. It just shows that, like, and Jared's like talking about the idea of regional discrimination based off of this healthcare system, right?
And then you think the 8-hour travel plus the 8-hour wait time. It's like, why bother even seeing a cardiologist at that point?
To speak to Jared's point, sorry, I'm gonna
go
quick.
ahead.
That's fine.
I know that what's it called? The people that do orthotics, podiatrists.
Podiatrists,
Yeah. So there are about 11 podiatrists in Ontario as an entire province, and about 8 of them are located in the southern region of Ontario. And I know that's where most of the population is, but still, I completely.
But it shows that we still need to take care of them. Yeah, there should be no sort of.
And they're all above 60 years old.
Yeah.
So
I think things being handled at the provincial level, and conservatives don't like when I say this, but things being handled at the provincial level is just a disaster. I really think nothing should be handled at the provincial level. Federal level and municipal level. Provinces can't do anything right. And by very nature of how they are, it's not because of them being run by incompetent people or anything, which is certainly the case in many provinces or a couple provinces.
Yeah, I would say that everything.
Hot take.
Oh, sorry.
But just by very nature of how they are, and you look at things like that, like why would our province look after the Sault Ste. Marie'ites when how many people live in Sault Ste. Marie? Is it like 80,000?
Something like
and
that.
It's so isolated. I much prefer Japan's communitarian approach, in which the federal government largely pays for it, but the municipalities administer it. The municipalities are given money to administer the healthcare, and I think. And you look at Japan's healthcare; they do really well. They have universal healthcare. They don't have two-tier.
They all live above 100.
Yeah, exactly. Look at their life expectancy, and I mean, I greatly admire Japan. I think they do things very, very right in almost all aspects, and that's certainly one of them.
To follow up on what you said, Jared commented again. He said, is it wrong to suggest that those who do not live in highly populated urban areas within close proximity to a hospital should have the option to pay for alternative care?
100%.
Yeah.
I've always believed in two-tier.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I'm shocked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I know, and it's not a popular. It's not a popular opinion of most.
Do you want to tell our viewers what two-tier is, though?
So two-tier system is basically. I know the UK has it. I know Australia had it for a while. Basically, with the universal healthcare system, there's always an option to pay for additional healthcare, for better coverage, for sort of more coverage. For a lot of socialists and left-thinking people, and there's some of their points are valid. It's almost like the rich can cut in line. That's what they see two-tier
in its own way. It kind of relates to net neutrality of like how just paying for more, pay to win, basically.
It's an interesting relation, but definitely, like you're right. So you're able to pay for better service, but because of the two-tier system, you'd be using the public system with private insurance, so you're almost cutting in line for people that cannot afford it. And I don't agree with that. I believe that if you're paying for more coverage, there should be different clinics. There should be extra clinics. If you're paying for that additional coverage, you should have access to your own and not sort of cut into the public sort of system.
So a special one.
Ontario has a very small portion of that. It's called Medicaid. it's sort of like a membership that you buy, and there are these private clinics that you don't have to wait in line for MRIs, you don't have to wait in line for CT scans and stuff like that. It's very basic, but it's a start. I know Quebec had a big landmark case, 2005, Jacques Chauhy. The only reason why I know that is because I did an assignment on it in high school. I'm not that much of a nerd. But Quebec sort of has a two-tier system in their own respective area. Israel, for example, has a two-tier system. Israel has one of the best healthcare systems. I'm very critical of Israel, but they've done health right.
They do a lot. Yeah, they do a lot of things right.
I'm going to give them that. Israel has done two things and more, but two things very right: desalination and health. So Israel is a hotspot for the biomedical industry, and they've done a lot good with their health system, and they have a two-tier system. I don't know the exact specifics, but I know that my uncle can sort of pay for he pays a certain fee, and he gets like 10 house visits by a doctor a year. Like he gets like the option that doctors can make house calls and stuff like that.
And I
love it.
Sorry, I want to cut you off, but I just want to mention about house visits in Canada.
Do they exist?
No. They do.
Oh.
They do.
They do.
But how long do you think it takes to get somebody on the phone? And then how long do you think it takes for somebody to come? It takes at least a day, right? If it's the worst part is that something always has to happen on a weekend. You're always going to have something happen. Yeah. Murphy's Law, right? Anything that can go wrong will go wrong. Yeah. And so the time it takes to get to a nurse on the phone and the time it takes for somebody to come, it's crazy. So being able to have somebody come to your house, scheduled 10 appointments, in a year, right?
Yeah,
would be great.
Something like that.
To be clear, GPs don't come to your house in Canada, do they? Like
GPs?
General practitioner.
Yeah, like you're not getting like a checkup at your house, right?
No.
Okay.
I feel like it's more like
like a nurse, like
no. Actually, it is a doctor.
Like a PSW, like a
personal worker.
Yeah, like a personal.
That makes
service.
Yeah. Okay, no, I have seen that. Yeah.
Yeah, no. People like my mom works with them. They make house calls. That's what they do. It's not an actual doctor like you see in the movies. But in Israel, they have that. In Israel, they also, like, for example, in Canada, because of the lack of research funding.
I think France does it too, though, where a doctor can come and check you up and stuff like that.
France is its own deal. They have so much money invested in their public healthcare system, but they pay like a whack ton of taxes to afford
it's the kind of the give and take that happens though with these countries, right?
Yeah.
Now, I want to focus a little more south of the border, right? Because we talked a little.
Mexico Lane. Sorry.
Oh wait, what south? Like Chile?
South meaning
Argentina? No. U.S.
Not too far south. A little closer than Mexico.
Argentina has a single payer healthcare.
Didn't know that. But.
I want to ask, what is Obamacare for our viewers? And there's also Medicaid there, and I'm assuming it's a little different than we have here.
Right. It's very different.
So
if
anybody,
it's the opposite. Huh?
If anybody wants to say what Obamacare is and what Medicaid is.
I've talked a lot.
Obamacare specifically, like, it was a plan created by obviously Obama.
Really?
No way.
Basically, but the idea is because I think 10 years ago there was about 40 million Americans without any health care, right? So the idea was it would be a government funded to help provide health care for these people, though. The only problem was that it's basically Obamacare is in itself is its own private insurance company, right? But it's just run by the government. The problem was, though, because everyone's running in, so many people are trying to go in there in the pool of system, right? Because the way that insurance works, though, is like you need to have a decent pool of healthy people, insurers that are paying into the fund, and then and hopefully there's not that many people that need the money to access all of these medical facilities.
So is that kind of like a Marxist kind of ideology,
I guess,
rich?
No, I wouldn't call it Marxist.
No. But the idea is that there's more people paying for this money. So if enough people are paying into the system, and enough people are going to be using it to get better healthcare, so more people have access to it.
So they're kind of like mutual funds, maybe.
I guess, but the main problem with it though was it cost too much, and then they didn't realize how much money was actually going to be needed to take care of all these people that need the healthcare. Therefore, the premiums got so high, and that's why it costs and premiums
went up.
Yeah, the premiums went up excessively. It went so high to the point where people couldn't even afford.
In Arizona, it went up 120%.
Yeah, and instead of paying for the premium, you're forced to pay for the healthcare. And then if you didn't pay for the healthcare, they were gonna fine you. And it turns out that the fines were cheaper than paying for the premiums. It just showed that they didn't think this plan well enough, and it kind of actually like destroyed more of their healthcare system. It made it worse for them.
Obamacare exposed so much of the greed, and I say greed. People might not agree with me, but I'll say greed. The greedy culture in the United States, and sort of the involvement of so many other different bodies and lobby groups in the United States, in the U.S. society. For example, when Obamacare tried to include birth control, there was a huge revolt from a lot of the pro-life groups, from a lot of different sort of religious groups. When Obamacare tried, so at the beginning, the whole rally cry of Obamacare was, you can keep your doctor, you can keep your doctor, you can keep your doctor. And then at some point, they were like, just kidding.
Yeah.
And then people revolted heavily there. You know, in Canada, we've sort of accepted, all right, I'm paying taxes. I might not reap all of what I pay, but I'm paying for somebody else. I'm kind of cool with that. And there is some general distaste, but I think for the most part, Canadians are sort of cool with sort of pooling into the Canadian into the healthcare system and paying that way. But the Americans were just like, why the hell do I have to pay for other people, for the low lives, for the people that don't work, for the this, for the that? And I think it exposed a lot of the greed culture that way. And I wish I remembered. I did a whole thing on Obamacare. I wish I remembered how Obama tried to get around all these problems, but the vote was so tight in the Senate. I know that Joe Lieberman, who was an independent at the time, he voted against something that would have taken away a lot of these problems, and I can't remember what it is. But yeah, I think Obamacare, as an idea, was great, but it wouldn't work in America.
I think it was overall a disaster, and I mean, a lot of people don't realize this. The Affordable Care Act, the ACA, and Obamacare, same thing.
I think we've mentioned that before.
Obamacare is just the nickname for it. Yeah. And so you look at places like Minnesota and Wisconsin, a couple other states, the amount that they pay for health insurance, average, is less than what Canadians pay for our OHIP or our, whatever your provincial system is through our taxes. And they were getting American standard space age healthcare. If there were a solution to spread that through the whole country, then I think they'd really have just a fantastic healthcare system overall. But unfortunately, there's an issue with doctors being very much concentrated in certain areas and not in others, and certain places have different regulations that make doctors not want to go there. And I don't think it's practical to try and spread out this Wisconsin, Minnesota, and I want to say Oregon system out to the rest of the states, as much as that would be fantastic. And I want to look to Otto von Bismarck, first leader to introduce universal health care back in the very late 1800s, 1890s. And he was a very conservative guy, a proto-conservative, some might say. But he felt that, if we don't give these people universal health care, if we don't give our poor people, our working class, universal health care, then who's going to be running the factories? Who's going to be, cleaning our buildings? I don't know what working class people did back then, other than factories. But who's going to be doing these jobs if they can? It's going to have to be people coming down from the middle management jobs at the paper company or something. And then who's going to take those jobs? And it just creates an unfortunate funnel. So why not give these people healthcare to support them in their working class jobs? And I think that's just such a great concept that we
forget about.
People say, why do I need to pay for these people's healthcare? It's benefiting you in a lot of ways.
You're paying it back eventually.
Yeah. When it's done right.
And is it done right here?
No.
I think the one thing that we need to do is it's literally the only thing we've been bitching about, because it happened to me too. Actually, I had the same thing that happened to Marshall though. I was going to a trip, like a school trip. Me being a dumbass, I was trying to cut some cheese, and I get they made the same joke that time too. But I was cutting it like this, basically with the knife. Don't ask me why I did this. Okay, I'm an idiot, but I basically did that, and then it would go in and it cut right there. So I have like a scar right here, and it bled a lot, right? And so I'm when I remember when I went there, this happened at probably 10 p.m. the morning before I was supposed to go to Quebec for the trip, right?
Yeah.
I'm like, are you serious? I have to wait 4 hours just for you guys to put some sort of icing thing in my thumb and you can stitch it? Shit, I would have got my dad to do it myself then if had I known it would have took that long.
Yeah.
Like,
and that's
the main problem is the wait times.
Yeah.
And we don't have enough. We're understaffed.
We're
as
literally
well.
we're literally understaffed. We're overcapacitated in hospitals. When I
Always,
went
we're
there,
always
literally
overcapacitated.
people in the hallways on beds.
Yep.
In the hallways because there's
Oh
not
my-
enough rooms.
Yeah.
Right.
Go ahead.
Like
After, I want to say something after. Go.
overstaffed, undercapacitated, and when you have those two things together, that creates the biggest problem of them all. Right?
I was having this conversation with a registered nurse, and we just started talking about healthcare specifically. And she works at
Was this in
Trillium.
person or like just over the phone, like the registered?
Oh,
nurse
it was
number?
my girlfriend's mom. Like she's
okay.
she's a nurse, right? And basically, like, she was just talking, and she works at Trillium. I think it's the Queensway one. Yeah. And she's literally talking about how patients are like outside on the beds of the hallways. Come look at this. Think about this right now. In Brampton, we've reconstructed the old hospital, and we've turned it into a brand new
Beautiful. I've seen
urgent care. You've seen it, right?
It's beautiful.
I went in there yesterday because yesterday I went to the doctor, and I go there, wait for my bus to take me home. That place is completely empty. And this building is massive. We could take people from overflowing that are from the Bramalea location from the other side of Brampton. We could be bringing in all these people from all these different hospitals that need that just they don't. It's not like they need to stay at that hospital and they just need to recover and they just need a room to recover in. That would be a perfect way to appropriate these funds. But we literally have a health building that's completely open to the public and we're not even using. It just shows that we need to have a different mindset.
We need a reform.
Yeah, exactly.
We need reform. We need serious
Make
reform.
it more communitarian.
Yeah.
Take the power away from the provinces. Give it to the municipalities. I mean, that's
can't see
something.
And there should be cooperation though
I
from the
can't see
municipalities.
Toronto
Oh,
managing our
that's the
I
thing,
wouldn't
though.
give it to Toronto. You give it to.
I'd give it to Brampton.
Yeah.
The
when
Brampton municipality. Mississauga.
So I mean, you give it to Rosedale, or you give it to.
Oh, that's what
downtown.
you mean.
And so in Toronto, a huge city like Toronto, it's obviously going
It
to
would be
a bit
divided
different,
equally
But
according
the
to
thing is, the University Avenue is a big concentration of hospitals. If you give management to the downtown core, or what is it, University of Rosedale, like the ward, and then you're managing 7 hospitals versus Don Mills, which is managing 2. There's going to be some serious.
Or there's
issues.
probably some wards that have 0 hospitals,
zero.
right? So it shows.
Yeah,
I don't know.
And that's the problem. I mean, Toronto could really be its own province. Got a bigger population than the maritime provinces probably all put together, honestly.
Yeah.
And
Toronto should secede. That's it.
yeah, so I mean, you wouldn't give it to the city, like the whole
It'd be awful. It'd
the
be
whole
disaster.
city, the whole metropolitan thing,
die.
because that would just be the
die.
same problem as giving it to the provinces. So you give it Riverdale, and you give it. I don't know if Riverdale's big enough for that, but you know what I'm saying.
I know what you mean. what you mean.
And yeah, so I think to sum up my problems with Canadian healthcare is that, it's too centralized with the provinces, and it's not attracting the good doctors. Why do we have this system that makes doctors leave? I mean, my doctor, he's just retiring because he's tired of Kathleen Wynne.
My mom's doctor is doing the same thing.
Exactly, and it's disastrous and it's terrible.
You had
Such a-
doctors retire during the Mike Harris common sense revolution when he shut down wings of hospitals and cut funding to a lot of that. Every government is going to cut something in health because it's easy to cut.
But that's the most important thing.
I know,
can't
but
cut.
it's easy to cut because it's inflated. It's fat. It's a fat dividend of our tax dollars. It's a fat dividend of the investment of government. I think Canada needs reform. I think if you take away, it doesn't necessarily have to be like the super elitist 2-tier system. It can be for the modest middle classman. If you sort of invest more in private healthcare system, and I know I'm going to be reamed for that, but more investment in private, more investment in public, more diversion, more figuring out where there's empty spaces, where they're overcapacitated, just general top-down reform.
Yeah.
Will benefit the province.
We've seen it now, in different examples. Private healthcare, it surprisingly works very well, and you wish that public healthcare would be stronger.
Yeah.
But we're not there yet. Canada and Ontario isn't there yet. So
Works in Israel, works in the UK, worked in Australia.
So we definitely.
I think we could do it though. I honestly do think we could.
Definitely need some reform here. But great episode. Great interaction with our viewers. Thank you for commenting. That was our show for this week. Thank you to everyone that tuned in and that messaged us live. A brand new episode of the Raben Report will be coming to you next week. Second last episode of season 4. So make sure to tune in.
Sad reacts only.
We're definitely going to have a very big episode for our season finale. But the Raben Report will be coming to you next week. Same day, same time, same people. Have a great day, everyone.